Good morning. Welcome to Mental Health and Business. It's my great pleasure to have Anna Maya with me this morning. I screwed that up too. It's pretty amazing. It's right in front of me. I still screwed it up. Anyway, um, Anna is a super smart and interesting person who's doing interesting things in many domains, mostly to do with how human beings function best with one another and what we can do to be more present. She has a podcast called "Movement Is My Constant," which I've been on and really enjoyed, and suggest to anyone who's interested in thinking about things in slightly different ways and sort of taking stock of where we are. All good stuff. So Anna, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you so much. It's really nice to be here on the other side.
Yeah, it's easier on the other side.
Yeah, I feel really like, woo.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
also feel the pressure, because I know when you're a guest, you want to make sure, at least I feel like, let's make sure that I can benefit your podcast as well.
yeah. Well, again, I'm thrilled that you're here
Thank
with
you.
us. So right. So how did we meet? So I found you via some marketing I was doing, looking for people who were doing interesting things in related areas. And I saw your podcast and I really liked it. And I contacted you, and you were nice enough to invite me on yours, where we talked about human psychology and meditation and how to be present and all that good stuff. I thought it would be maybe good to start out to just tell our listeners, and I'd love to hear it again, what your journey's been to come to where you are currently. Like, how did you start off, and where are you in your travels?
Ooh, the big question. Okay. All right. So for instance, for the podcast, I started really at the very end of 2019. I was also on a journey of transformation. I was exploring practices, embodied practices. I was already meditating for some years. And I realized that I was actually out of tune with my body. And I also realized that many things that were stagnant in my body were revealing. The more I moved, the more I connected to my body. So mentally, physically, things were shifting. And when I realized that, I was already listening to podcasts. That has been always my go-to, also in processes of, trying to figure where I was, those moments where you're just lost, you don't know where you're heading. I would just walk in the
Mhm.
park with the headphones and listen to really wonderful podcasts. And I realized, wait a minute, this is a really interesting medium. So one thing led to the other, my own exploration, and then also the medium itself. And because I do have this, digital design background, it was easier for me to start playing with. I've always enjoyed playing with sound, so I wanted something that had minimum quality, and so I
Mm.
edited everything. I played with just seeing how sounds would like finding musics, the jingles, etc., all of that. So there I played, and I really wanted to interview people that were offering embodied practices, but were exploring the body in this concept of movement. And I didn't know yet. I
Mhm.
feel like my podcast has been still the platform of play. That's always how I've started, and it's still growing. Every person I meet, like also the conversation we've had together, it's been people will always spark something else in me. Like there will be something they will say like, "Oh yeah, this is also true." So
Mm.
then it's like the podcast itself gets more refined, gets more clear, at least for me. And that's been the podcast journey, at least one of the journeys.
That sounds great. That sounds so great. So um, I always stumble at the word embodied. One of the things that I love about this part of my job is that I get to talk to people about things that I don't know anything about, and they educate me. So embodied to me means has something to do with feeling your body. Okay,
Hmm.
so it has to do with the kind of awareness, I guess, of your body. But beyond that, I don't know what else to say about it. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's interesting, and you're not alone because I had the same. When I started hearing the word embodied, it never, for me, didn't connect immediately. And also because I was trying to translate it in my own language, and it always felt a little bit stuck. But embodiment or embodied is a way, indeed, to bring awareness to the body, to understand. You probably know a lot more about this than me in terms of how we are conscious in different levels. So it's not only the mind that is conscious, right? We gain consciousness through everything that happens around us. And our body is receiving information all the time, right? We can really think about a superficial level, but also in a more deeper level, from the sensations, the physical sensations, but then we can go into emotions, things that happen inside our body that we are aware, things we wish that were not there, and things we are not even aware of. And so embodiment or the embodied practices help us to, yes, be aware, but then also become curious and start to comprehend that there's actually more than just those, those main sensations we normally we most connect with. So for instance, embodied practices could be, the classic yoga, for instance. It's a very interesting, beautiful practice that helps us explore the body. And if we move away from this athletic type of yoga, which is present in many in our Western, society, we can see it also as a philosophy. In my case, for instance, meditation is also, to me, meditation, mindfulness is more
Hmm.
bodyfulness. A lot of teachers also joke about it, because you start realizing the subtleness in your body. And that is very, yeah, it's very nice, for lack of better words, very nice to feel.
Yeah, right. So that's fascinating. So that most of us, I would say, both psychologically and from a body perspective, are stumbling around in the dark. So the more we can the more we can be aware of the data, that's a word that I'm not afraid of. The
Yeah.
data, the more data we are aware of,
Hmm.
the more availabilities we have to things that might take us further. Um,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and certainly,
Yeah. And if
go
I
ahead.
may add something, maybe you can even help me develop this thought, because you have literature on your toolbox. And so the ancient Greeks talked about the soma, right? The somatic. And so embodiment is really also that. So it's really about how we can perceive, like I was saying, yes, perceive the reality, gain this consciousness, but then also through these somatic practices that they can shift the inner states. We can also develop different awareness and maybe shape even mental states.
Yeah,
So,
well
what can
said.
you tell
Well
about
said.
the ancient Greeks in literature and how they talked about somatics and all of
Yeah,
that?
let's talk about Aeschylus and Sophocles. You remind me of it's on the tip of my tongue. I was just talking about it this morning.
Hmm.
There's a very interesting therapy that's focused primarily on the body as as a series of doorways into one's psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Somatic experiencing, that's what it's called. So leave
Yes,
it to my field, leave it to my field to come up with gobbledygook language, but somatic experiencing, right? So
that's it.
so the idea, and what's his name? The famous psychiatrist who's behind all of this. I'll think of his name in a minute. But the idea
I
is that
forgot.
the body keeps score as the
Oh,
the body keeps score,
yeah.
right?
Uh huh.
So whatever the traumas have been,
Mm-hmm.
not just the traumas, whatever the experiences have been, are recognized somatically,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that there are certain practices that we can do that will unleash all kinds of emotional and
Exactly.
and memory systems. So that's very exciting. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess I guess one of the paradoxes in many of these things is that although we call it embodiment or we call it mentation, we're ultimately talking about integration.
Yeah.
We're ultimately talking about how these different systems can um, can we're talking about how we can understand how these systems interact,
Yeah.
as opposed to carving ourselves up into little pieces of mind and body. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. And how you
yeah.
can, because we are used to, I mean, when I say we, I am including myself in this modern society, Western world. So of course there's a certain relation to that world, let's say, that I want to say is that we are living from a mental, space, right? In the world we're living in, it's the head that actually leads the way, because we are focused on screens, or we are focused on pushing forward production, productivity, solutions, showing results, quantifying everything. So everything from the head down or the neck down, it's either coming only later when we want to relax at home, or when we want to play sports, but with the same drive as we do the whole day as we try to be productive. And
Hmm.
so there's a lack of communication, is what you said. There's no integration between the two, and they're always communicating, and there are ideas in our brain that come from our body, and we forget to connect this. So it's true, there are we store a lot of experiences through our life. Some of them are extremely traumatic, obviously, others maybe less, but they are stored in our body. And the
Hmm.
body does speak eventually, and if we don't pay attention to it, if you don't connect with it carefully, we might suffer, eventually one day suffer from it, and we don't even know, we can't even process, because we've never created the connection, so to speak.
Yeah.
um, and I feel that, yes, trauma is very interesting, in the sense that, well, I find it interesting because, although it's not usually connected to a positive experience, but the interesting is it's overused at the moment. The word trauma is
To be
overused,
sure. To be sure.
right? And I don't think that benefits anyone, because until we understand really what does it mean and how we can create different pathways to release trauma, overusing is useless. And we don't take the time to connect with the body, to be curious, to really understand, okay, what's going on here, even when that is uncomfortable.
Absolutely right. The guy's name is Van der Kolk. Van der
That's
Kolk
it.
is a
Yeah.
is a famous
Yes.
guy who sort of put all this on the map.
Mm-hmm.
I think trauma is overused too. And again, one of the things that I say to my patients every day, multiple times a day, is I ask them what they've experienced and what they're experiencing. I say, how does it feel? You know,
Yeah.
I have too many degrees after my name, but I spend most of my time saying things like, "What are you feeling? What
Right.
do you feel like? What do you feel like? What's
Right.
this experience like? Where do you feel it? Where is your body?" I do ask those questions,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think again, what we can't talk about everything at the same time. So we talk about the body, we talk about the mind, we talk about different things, but what we're ultimately after, I think you and I both are how to be, I use the word fluent, how to be more fluent in putting language to experience. That's really important. And for people who can't do that, they are at a massive disadvantage. You don't have to be a novelist or a poet, but you damn well better find ways of putting language to your experience.
Yeah.
And not making a meal of it, but what was it like when you were sitting in the office waiting for your daughter to be born?
Yeah. Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Exactly. Exactly. That's
And how
really
many convers
beautiful word. Tell me.
and how many conversations do we have where I have conversations where I ask people how they're feeling and they tell me what they're thinking. They tell me blah 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 blah
Yes.
blah 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 blah.
And then what? What do you do then?
I say, what are you feeling?
Like, I just told you.
Right.
Like, no.
I had a very sophisticated, Ivy League educated woman in my office yesterday who was trying very hard to tell me this conversation she's having with my boyfriend. And it was all just blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It took about 40 minutes. And finally I said, what were you feeling? And
Yeah.
she said, I was feeling really scared. I was like,
Interesting, huh?
okay. It's that sort of thing. It's hard to get
Yeah.
out of your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's very I think it's really interesting this because it's so easy to, like you said, blah 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 our experiences, right? And I've done this myself to explore, okay, what does it mean to do a little bit less, like to say a little bit less? How can I actually go to the essence of a certain word if I have less, blah blah blah. And that is an exercise on its own. One
Yeah.
can totally explore it, right? And it's very difficult. I myself going through this journey, understanding the body is not just all of a sudden, oh yeah, now I feel everything. No, because life is always changing and I'm always faced with new challenges, new ways. So it's not because of course having the practices that I have are helpful, but there will always be moments that I don't know again, or I don't know how to catch myself, the mental the monkey mind, as they call it in the meditation mindfulness world. Sometimes it's unstoppable.
Yes. Right. It's unstoppable. And that's when I mean, I say, this is how I was trained psychoanalytically, and I certainly say to my supervisees is like, you have to shut up. You have to just listen. Like, you have
Yeah,
to slow it down and listen. Where are you?
exactly.
All that stuff. So you do all these interesting things. What do you enjoy doing most? Do you enjoy meditation? Do you enjoy teaching? What do you what's the best day for Anna?
Oof, what a question. Oh my goodness. um it's so interesting. For instance, I mean, I love conversations. I love knowledge exchange. I guess I do love to educate, and in the sense of, bringing a sort of, this is what I've learned and this is how I can, bring to people as well. So that can be through conversations with the in this podcast, but also meditation. And it's interesting because that question, I think a great day is when I connect with people from a place that I know I'm connected to myself as well. And that can be, conversations, teaching someone to, like, having a meditation class, because some days I might not be up for it, right? But I will have
Right.
to. So the best thing I can do for
Mm-hmm.
myself is like, okay, how can I connect to this situation right now and try to bring the best to it? I know I didn't answer to your question, but
No, I don't think there's one answer. I think
no,
it's one of those things.
it's one of those questions I can say. But it's nice to see that the more you do, the more there is to do as well, right? I mean, it's like with meditation classes. Every year I rethink, oh, this could be interesting, bringing a new aspect to, to the
Yeah.
classes, or having a different group of people, for instance, in front of me. So all of that just shifts completely my experience and how I have to deal with it. I have to be there.
I think you're describing what I often refer to as engagement. People, I'm I I'm very intolerant of people who want to be happy, because one of my father's favorite quotes was "Happiness is for pigs," and I I think that's just a great quote. And years later, I don't
No.
know whether he knew this, but years later, I found that that's the title of a very brilliant essay by a theologian slash psychoanalyst who talks about that very thing. Like, what is
Interesting.
this business about happiness, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a great disbeliever in single state striving. Got to be happy, got to be successful,
Yes,
got to be sexy, got to be
I agree.
it's like, because human, I mean, to your point, human experience is multivalent, and we can't possibly be in one state unless
No.
we're a guru or something, or we're on drugs. I mean, we're in multiple states at the same time always. So I'm really into that. I'm really into people not being happy.
And there's even a new state right now with all these, especially for people who want to practice their life to be, perfect, is the enlightenment. I was talking about this with a friend the other day. And it's the same thing. If that is an achievement, you're going to miss out on a bunch of things around you. That's how I feel, at least. But I completely agree with what you say. And I think there were some notes you shared with me before that you were asking me about those states. And I was like, these seem very, like when you, like I'm bumping my head on the ceiling. If I read these, these states, they really feel like, oops, that I've bumped. I have nowhere to go or to
Hmm.
expand. And, I mean, I know for a lot of people, maybe they've heard this so many times, but life is really about the ups and downs. Like, there is no linear way to live it. And that would be super boring.
For sure.
Right. And, but it can also create another question, which is for people who say they're happy with, especially if they have a more materialistic approach to, to happiness. If it's quantifiable, it means that if I have this, I'll be happy. Da, da, da. How do we challenge them to really look for happiness? If that is,
Right.
their,
That that is a great question, and that's a great question, and it's a great clinical question, because not all of us can do all things,
exactly.
and so when I part of my problem with the quest for happiness is exactly that, is that there's some people who are um, so configured that this happiness thing is not going to be available to them, and nor are a lot of the models that we're selling. I think mental health does itself and has done itself a great disservice in selling models of mental health. It's ridiculous. I
Mm-hmm.
understand why we do it. I mean, we do it because we want to make money, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But another reason, a less cynical reason, is that it's hard being a person. It's really hard being a person.
Yeah, of course.
It's hard organizing ourselves. But not everybody is going to be able to be, engaged in a deep and connected and nuanced and no, 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 no. They're not going to be able to do it. They
No.
just want to know, here's my job and here's my lover or whatever it is, and I'm going to do this, and that's fine, and that
Yeah.
is fine, and they should be allowed to do that and
Yeah.
supported in doing that. I mean, we can point out, if not everybody's going to understand nuclear physics, right?
No.
But nuclear physics is there, and if you like that sort of thing, you can check it out. But there are many kinds of good life.
No,
I think that's
absolutely.
um, yeah, there are many kinds of good life, and I think that's one of the challenges in treating people and trying to help people is to recognize where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you right now, and where do you think you want to go, and where can you go?
Yeah.
I've had more than one experience with patients who they want to be astronauts, and they're never going to be astronauts. Sorry, I mean they can be something else really great, but they're not going to be astronauts.
Well, there you have it. But I bet there's a lot of creative ways they can be astronauts. I am sure. I mean, I can start to think about so many. You're so right. It's true. It's good to point out that we don't need that everyone has to be, thinking the same way we do, I guess. And that's what we're trying to say, obviously. Um, but this type of getting to know oneself, taking that step towards getting to know us, um, is disruptive in the life that we're living, in the society that we live. It's disruptive. So when you have, and for really simple things, and I really acknowledge a lot of people who are trying to do this work, who's that's very difficult for them to disrupt things if they live in communities that are very closed mindsets, or in families that do not comprehend why they do, or why they make certain choices, or sitting in meditation. I have to make a choice. I'm going to wake up really early in the morning, which means that I have to go to bed at a certain time. But maybe that's a little bit weird for the standards that I grew up with. So it really means to, at some point, there has to be changes that will affect people around us, will affect what we believe was the perfect lifestyle. And then we have to wonder, okay, how do I really feel? Am I happy? Do I see something in this journey, or in this path, or in this moment, that is actually making me feel with this sort of happiness that is unmeasurable, right? You can't quantify that happiness, because it's only mine, and it's happening right here in this moment, inside, just right now.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's so lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Yeah, and most of the folks that we talk to have a considerable amount of freedom,
Hmm.
which a lot of the people in the world do not.
Yes.
And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. It's like not everybody has the luxury of having this kind of conversation.
Yes.
Um, but those of us who do have freedom, a lot of freedom, we often don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time saying as gently as I can that you are the architect of your own madness.
I like that. Oh, I'm gonna
Like
take that one for my meditation. I will just start the next group of classes, guys.
I mean, among the many neurotic symptomatologies of the modern world, and it's been true for so many years, is that we, as a group, typically just displace all of our own craziness onto the world. It's my boss, it's my lover, it's my
Yes.
wife, it's my da da da. It's not me. It's not me. I just had a great session early this morning with one of my favorite patients who's convinced that his law firm is the problem. And it's like, that's not the problem, buddy. It's like
Yeah.
you put yourself there. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And here's something that people also stumble over. I think Richard Rorty said this years ago, the philosopher, that experience is interpretation.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And unless we're talking about things like, this is a table and this is a podcast, you know, that's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interpretation. It's not a fact.
Yeah.
I hate my job. It's not a fact. It's an experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And to demonize the law firm, I'm just using that as an example, is what so many of us do
Yeah.
all the time, and we're wedded to it. And to get someone to even question that, like, oh, this might be an opportunity for me to be smart or make more money or find a girlfriend or something. Like, no, it's awful. It's the job. And I say
Exactly.
to this guy, I say, can you imagine a job where this wouldn't be the case? And he's smart enough to say, no.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
So I think once we
No
start
freedom.
taking responsibility for that, right. Well, I think part of freedom there then comes from understanding that experience is open to a multitude of interpretation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's like it's so interesting. I also love this idea of between responsibility and guilt. And this really depends per culture. I think guilt is a
hmm,
very, religious Christian way of pointing out, oh, you're guilty of, you guilt, and people sometimes just connect like that, guilt.
hmm,
But if we shift the perception of it and say, no, what are you responsible for that you can feel you can change? How do you feel responsibility? What is responsibility for you that it's not projected to others, right? So if we start looking really into ourselves and understanding, okay, oh yeah, I have responsibilities, but I am also responsible for, my internal system and how I see, like you said, how I perceive this experience. So how could I change this? And
right.
that to me is when you start opening certain doors for curiosity and really trying to figure out, okay, let's start playing here. Let's see what comes, right? um but yeah, it's just I find it interesting when you move out from the victim role, or from the victim point of view, I guess, and then you
Hmm.
become responsible. You gain a set of tools immediately, and it's the start of your path, I think.
I think that's right. I think that's right on. And I think part of all this, of course, is understanding where you come from.
Hmm.
Understanding where you come from and what was it like, what was it like to be you in your family at that
Yeah.
time, and all those questions. What was it like? What was it like in
Yeah.
your body? What was it like? Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, and also
yeah.
just to add there, the journey aspect, I think that for many of us who have experienced, who have done or do or still do therapy, and are supported there, it's interesting when you have a good therapist that can really all of a sudden click a little light and show you, hey, maybe on that episode would you feel this emotion, or have you felt this, or do you relate with this word, something that can be extremely emotional. And there, on that moment, you're like, oh yeah, I had never seen it in that perspective. It just feels good in your body. Like, oh, relief, and then you can
Hmm.
start proceeding to the next stage. Something else will come in your life, it will trigger something, but you can see it differently again. And I think I went on a tangent, but I just wanted to add there the journey, right? Where you build those little, you build through small steps, but when you are supported, you really have, well supported, I would say, you really are able to unlock things so that more and more you come towards yourself, like more and more you can know yourself.
Yeah, no, it's all about tangents. I mean, I think that's one of the one of the interesting things about all of this is that um, we're taught because, and language dictates that we have to speak in logical ways, and we have to think linearly, and we have to do all that, and we have to do a lot, and we do have to do that because otherwise it wouldn't make any sense. We'd be all
Right.
stumbling around and destroying one another. But when you get into psychoanalysis or meditation or anything that asks you to question that, you realize that the linearity is just a conceit. I mean, the whole notion of making sense is just a conceit. It's like we
Mm-hmm.
have to, I mean, we have to make sense, obviously, but then, there are other things to be made of than sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Imagination, free association, what comes to
Yes.
mind, what's happening, right? Like we need
Ex-
to do that too. We
exactly.
need both prose and poetry,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
just one or the other.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I know in your podcast you also like to talk about a little bit maybe the business setting or the corporate. And what came to mind when you were saying, free association, I sometimes still think about these moments where I was working in companies and in design teams. You normally have like these sort of brainstorms sessions where you have to also do obviously free associations. Um, but I've always had some issues with it because it just felt so we had a limit of time, right? I mean, I'm not saying brainstorm is bad by any means, what I'm trying to say is it didn't feel right back then doing it in a room, in your office space full of white walls and, post-it notes. And, we have half an hour to come up with this great idea for, the next feature for the product. I'm talking about digital products here, like an application or a website, whatever. And I've always struggled. And that gave me a lot of tension in my body. I
Hmm.
hated it, honestly. And to me, a great free association is a walk in nature, right? When you're walking and you're talking to someone, and suddenly your visual is expanded, right? You have more information, you have natural light, or you have, and there your ideas can flow. Or when you are doing something that is completely unrelated, like maybe you're having actually a really nice meal or a nice coffee, the classic shower, right? Or sometimes it happens to me as soon as I go to bed, my brain's like, oh, okay, ideas. So it's
Right.
very interesting, this aspect of where I'm actually relaxing my body is where my ideas will come up. So if I have a tense body, no
That's
ideas.
that's that's fascinating. So, are you saying that you hated free association because you were in a kind of antiseptic environment?
Yeah. Yes.
Huh. But then
Exactly.
when you're walking through the woods, you can associate
Yeah.
more freely because you're right.
Yeah,
Huh.
exactly. Exactly. Actually, okay, I'm gonna put it out there if anyone wants to grab it. If I had another podcast, it will be called Talking, which is talking and walking. Okay. So
That's
I know this
okay.
makes no sense, but if anyone wants to grab it. But it's really about, how you can engage in ideas and conversations as you're moving your body. What happens?
Well, back to ancient Greece, the term they used was peripeteia. Uh, to,
Peripatia.
to be a peripatetic is to be someone who's walking and talking. And the philosophers, that's what they did primarily. They didn't sit on their butts. They walked and talked.
See?
A peripatetic philosopher.
Peripet-
There you go.
peripatetic. I love it. You see, I mean, they knew it already. We're trying to reinvent stuff and it's useless.
But
I
it's
love
really
it.
fun. Just some more on the free association. So the conceit again. The conceit
Hmm.
is that it is that linear thinking isn't free association. Right? It's less free, but
Hmm.
it's all association.
Right.
You know, I can teach you how to think linearly, and I can teach you how to not do that. So when Freud was talking about all this, he didn't think that we were going to be free of any constriction. I mean, that's madness. That's horrible madness. One way of
Mm-hmm.
understanding schizophrenia
Mm.
is that these folks have absolutely no control over any psycho or somatic issues. They're smelling, hearing, feeling, everything in a jumble. None of it's organized.
Wow.
It's massive, massive stimuli dumps. And so that's what ultimate freedom is. And who wants that?
Yeah.
Nobody. But free association simply is an encouragement to not to unlock from the linear, logical, obvious thing, and just say what comes to your head,
Yeah.
right? So I say duck, and you say yellow. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
now we're on to yellow, and then,
Exactly. And then you
by
move
the
on.
way,
Yeah.
and then you
It's
move on.
interesting.
I just saw this amazing thing. Forgive me for just saying this. It's
Fun.
kind of off topic, but have you heard of Brian Eno?
A musician.
Musician.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
you would love him.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
did. I didn't really know who he was either.
I think I
I
think I
mean,
know him actually.
he was a producer. He produced Bono and
Yeah.
um, David somebody or other. I can't think of his name, but there's a documentary out on him, and it's just one of the most uplifting, amazing
Oh, I have to see
pieces.
this.
And
Okay.
it's all about this. It's all about the, how to, not how to, but his call to embrace a multitude of systems and things, sounds primarily, into a form that actually generates itself.
Oh well.
Um, beautiful, beautiful, metaphorically,
I'm gonna
just
watch it. Thanks for letting me
up
know.
your alley.
Yeah,
for
I
those
bet it
for
is.
the for those who are listening, I can't I can't
Oh,
I can't
perfect. I love it.
I can't say enough about that. And we have a dog on camera. No, no, we don't.
Oh, so you can hear her, right? Okay. If you give me a second, I can. Yeah. Well.
No, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
What kind of
So
dog is it?
the thing, it's a border collie with spaniel.
Oh,
And she thinks she rules the building. So every time she hears someone, she has to bark, obviously, because they can't be in the building, even if they're nice neighbors and we all love them. But
right.
for her, there's how do you say? There's lines you cannot cross, and
That's right.
so
She's protecting you.
she's protecting. So that's why I'm sorry for the listeners out there. It's Gaia, her
No,
name,
that's for Gaia. Oh, of the Earth,
of the
Earth,
earth.
Earth dog. Yeah,
Yes, she
yeah.
is. She likes to dig big holes. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, this is great. This is great. So before we say goodbye,
Mhm.
what else haven't we talked about? We talked about so many things.
Yeah, we did.
Did we miss something?
I bet we would have more and more topics to talk, but I think what I would really like to maybe touch upon and also hear a little bit about your own knowledge about it. It's this human-centric approaches, right? How could we, um, how do we really help? No, not help. That's a bad word. How do we really convey this message of being more human in this, what is going to be, more technological world, which it already is. It's permeating our lives. It's very helpful as well. I'm not, saying anything wrong about it, but I truly believe that in a more technological world, we're going to need even more, human skills. Like what is it really to be a human, right? And I
Hmm.
feel that these conversations that we have are essential because people, we need to be curious about ourselves. We cannot just lean into the how easy it is to live in a technologically advanced world, so to speak. So yeah, maybe you can help me formulate this a little bit better, but I think you get my point.
Yeah,
I hope.
human. Yeah, yeah, no, I got you. Human centric. Yeah, I think one of the things I always struggle with is yeah, curiosity and play. Curiosity and play are where we all need to be on so many different levels. But in order to get there, you have to feel secure.
Yeah.
Security and curiosity go up and down together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
more secure I am, the more curious I can be, and the less
Mm-hmm.
secure I am, I'm not curious at all. I mean,
Yeah.
no one sitting in a war trench is curious. They just
Yeah.
want to stay alive, right? So I think that's, that needs to be said. And I think a lot of the problems that we have in mental health circles is that we forget that. We keep
Yeah.
again promoting this and promoting that, but who's our audience? Who are we talking to?
Yeah.
Um, so I think, I think the human side, I say things like, psychological mindedness,
Oh.
because y- we don't necessarily want to be human. If
Mm-hmm.
human means, impulsive, rageful, homicidal, I
Right.
mean, that's part of being human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Angry, jealous, petty,
Yes.
stupid. We don't want that
Exactly.
part of being human. We want the part of being human that is recognizing our own limitations, and also, having a certain kind of respect
Yeah.
and care for one another. How do you do that? Well, I think there's no free lunch in psychology, but I think the notion of psychological mindedness simply is to help people think about what it means to have a psychology. You know,
Yeah.
one of my favorite books, which is unreadable, horrible writer but brilliant person, was called "The Psychological Birth of the Human Infant," which was written, I think, in the
That's a
eight.
title.
I think in the 80s. Yeah, I mean, it's so badly written that when I was reading it, I was loving the ideas, but I would laugh out loud because
Right.
she tortured the language. You could
It's
hear the
insane.
English language screaming in the background.
That.
Um,
And of all
but
people, Nicholas.
so, but
Yeah,
how do you do that? You introduce them to,
that's
that
true.
they have impact on one another, and
Yeah.
what do they feel, right?
And I think again, going back, I know this is going, but going back to this idea of you have to know yourself, like, but knowing yourself is, I don't, sometimes I don't like to say this because it sounds flatline. Oh, you have to know yourself because it's a lifelong experience. But the more the more I know myself, the more I understand really where happiness and, the true happiness resides. I can better understand others. I cannot come towards, certain feelings of being human from a too logical way. Obviously, there's logic behind it, and that's, we have ethic norms, to go about. But really knowing oneself is extremely helpful to be there for others, to understand, okay, the human being you have in front of you, and it can still be challenging. There's people that may
Well,
have in front of me, and it might be a challenge still. So
of course. I think most of life is challenging. I mean, I
yeah,
think if
of
you're awake,
course, like you said. Yeah.
if you're awake, most of life is challenging.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, maybe another a sort of ancillary question to your question is what is the what is the point of entry into this for people? I think the point of entry into this discussion and the whole issues that we're raising, there are multiple points of entry,
Mhm.
right? Like somebody could join a yoga studio. Someone could talk to their priest or their rabbi or their shaman. Somebody could take a writing class. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
could, the point of entry would be that point where one is in whatever capacity doing something new and inquisitive,
Yes,
right?
inquisitive. Yes.
Across a very broad array of possibilities.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too, because
Yes.
not everybody is going to want to come in my office and talk about all the things I want them to talk about. They're just not going to do it.
Of
But
course.
they will pick up a self-help book, which might be helpful, or they may take, a flying lesson or something. So
Right.
anything
Right.
that benignly jostles you into considering who you are or
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
more curious. I think that's a good thing. And
Yeah.
we don't. I mean, not to get into politics here, politics, but just to say that I thought the Democratic National Convention, if nothing else, was just a genius marketing operation.
Okay. Can you
It
elaborate that for me?
yeah, they had a few very simple messages that they kept emphasizing. Be nice to your neighbor. What about joy,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
putting aside for a minute whether any of these people are competent or anything else, it was refreshing in that way,
Yeah.
right? Like it was basically like, be a decent person, don't be
Yeah,
an asshole.
exactly. Don't
Like
be a
that
hassle.
was
With those little, that reminds me, there's this book, I forgot the name actually, but it's actually called Nudge. I think we talked about this. Nudge. Does it ring a bell
nudge.
to you?
Yes,
Nudge,
yes,
yes, right?
yeah,
And it's this. If you can use it, just it's not like you're imposing, but the invitation is there. And that you just like you do this little tick, in something. It's like,
yeah,
okay, it's not violent. And this is a very aspect, again, another thing, communication. We cannot abuse our communication just to have our ideas come across to others. When
right.
violence is there, for me, it's nah, forget about it.
No,
No.
no,
So, but
no.
anyways, that's
The project's over. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the conversation. I mean, we're gonna have a long
Another, you
conversation about
see, another
conversations.
topic.
But I'll share this with you because it's something that I just recently, I mean,
Yes, please
relatively
do.
recently put language to. A lot of mental health programs or philosophies want patients to do different things, right? They want to like do this, do that, do this, do that. What I try to do is just the opposite. I try to understand what the person is and ask questions about where they are and what they think they're doing. Um, One example is are the kinds of ridiculous conversations that most of us have.
Mm.
They're just ridiculous,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially when they're angry, right? Like
Mm.
perfectly intelligent, lovely people having fights about, who took the cat to the vet, or you didn't remember my birthday. I mean, vicious, horrible,
Yeah.
denigrating fights, right? The point is not to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
The point is to understand them as proxies.
Mm.
Those fights, and I think it's true politically, and I think it's true globally. There are skirmishes, there are violence, verbal, both that look preposterous. Like you can't possibly think
It's true.
that this is what's going on. But what you don't want to do is dismiss them because there's an enormous amount of passion in there. There's an enormous amount of emotional feeling, right? Which has a source that's much deeper, that has to be recognized.
Yeah.
You might want to kill your partner because they didn't say that your salad was great or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
But the real reason you want to kill them is that they haven't been attending you in the ways that you
Yeah.
wanted to, or this or that. But it's something historic, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
even. It's something historic both within the couple. I'm talking about couples now, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also historic in terms of the given person.
Yes,
Like somewhere in life, you didn't feel recognized, and so
exactly.
the fact that this guy doesn't like your salad is like reason for divorce, right? I mean, there
Exactly.
you go.
Yeah.
So the proxy. So anyway, that's my gift to you. Such it
Thank
is.
you. I love
Such as
that.
it is.
I love that.
Proxies.
I completely agree.
Deconstruct the proxies. Yeah.
I love it. Yes. Good.
Right,
Thank you
Anna.
for the gift.
All right. Well, thank you for the gift of being with us this morning. That was just great. You can
Yeah.
come back anytime.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Well, this was a really wonderful conversation. Thank you, Nicholas, for having me.
Okay, so listen, if you want to get in touch with Anna, look up "Movement is My Constant," and look at her amazing podcast. And thank you again for having me.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.